Okay, I'll go ahead and officially get started this morning by just welcoming all of you guys. Sawadee Kap. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys this morning. This is what we call our Pali Canon and English study group, where we study the original words of the Buddha, helping you guys understand the path to enlightenment. And we start with a meditation to be able to help you guys develop your meditation practice. So I'm going to guide you guys in a breathing mindfulness meditation session. And I would like to just help you with understanding your body positioning before I actually do the guidance. So I'll share with you guys here a little bit about the body positioning. So I'd like to welcome all of you guys that are here and all of you guys that are tuning in online. Welcome to everyone. The body position for meditation, the Buddha gave actually 4 different positions that we can use to help us. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking positions. Usually when you're first learning, seated is what you start with, either sitting on the floor or sitting in a chair or something of that nature. If you're sitting on the floor, usually there's a cushion under your rear, and you can actually add multiple cushions if you like, because this gets the hips up in the air and it helps to reduce the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, and it allows the circulation to flow in the lower body. The multiple cushions are here that if you'd like more cushions, you're welcome to get those at any point. You're even welcome to get a chair if you like. So there's no certificates given for sitting on the floor. So if you feel any pain or discomfort, it's best to go ahead and get a chair and sit in something that's going to be more comfortable. If you're in a chair, oftentimes having your feet flat on the floor or crossed at the ankles is really nice, but it's really up to you. There's not just one fixed body position in order to meditate in. It's about you finding what's comfortable for you, and everybody's going to find something slightly different that's going to be comfortable. So make sure the lower body is nice and relaxed and comfortable, not luxurious and not painful. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could use this. But again, not everybody's going to find that comfortable. There's other options here as well. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. You might even just put your palms, relaxed here in front of you like this. So it's whatever's comfortable for you. You find what's best, where the lower body and hands and arms are completely relaxed, comfortable, but not luxurious and not painful. The upper body should be erect. This keeps the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, where the mind can be attentive and alert, rather than where if you were slouched with the upper body, the mind would have a tendency to be lethargic or dull perhaps. But if you were real rigid with the upper body, the mind might have a tendency to be overactive or uptight. So by keeping the upper body erect, it's able to keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. I'm going to be easing into meditation by doing some chanting, which you guys are welcome to join along with if you like. There's the chants over there on a table. There's a laminated sheet that has the chants on there. We chant in the original Pali language. This is the language that they captured the teachings of the Buddha in, or at least the version that we have available to us today. And these Pali chants, they're in English as well. I have the English translations. There's nothing mystical or magical about these chants. It's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship. It's not prayer or anything like that. During the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students commit the teachings to memory, because it was an oral tradition. Nothing was written down during his lifetime. So he would teach, and then every 2 weeks, his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally in order to commit them to memory. So today we don't need to chant in order to commit the teachings to memory, but I still chant in order to ease the mind into meditation and actually get more benefit out of the meditation, because it kind of invigorates the mind a little bit, helps you become aware of the mind and aware of the breath. So if you'd like any cushions, or you'd like a chanting sheet, you're welcome to get access to that by getting one off the table over there. So I'm going to start with chanting to kind of ease us into meditation, and then afterwards I'll come in with some guidance to be able to help you, and then there'll be a period of time where it'll just be completely quiet and we'll all be meditating. I'm sure you're going to hear the occasional car go by, maybe a dog bark or something like this, but when you hear these sounds are impermanent. You can just train your mind to let that go and come back to the breath. I'll share with you how that's done as I guide you in meditation. So make yourself comfortable, and then if you'd like to chant along, you're welcome to. Some people might just decide to close their eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose, and then I'll come in with some guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Bhutang Mahakevanang Apivateyami Savakhato Mahakevata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakevato Savakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti pisu Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakhato Rokavito Anuttaro Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusanang Bhutto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then when you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up to the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to your next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, establishing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Once the breath is well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. อะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธมหะเขวาพุทธังมหาเขวันหังอภิวาเทมิสวากขาโตมหาเขวตาธัมโมธัมมังนามัสสามิสุปฏิปันโนมหาเขวโตสาวกสังโฆสังฆังนามามินะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมหะเขวะสัมพุทโธวิชาจารณังสัมมุโนสคาโตโรกาวิโตอนุเตโรปุริสาธัมมาสติสัตตาตาวาปมนุสนังพุทโธภะคะวะติ Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation, I would just once again welcome all of you guys, including those of you guys that joined us since we started meditating. Welcome to all of you guys. Those of you here at the temple and those of you guys online, welcome to all of you. For those of you guys who this is your first time here at this temple, just to let you know, there's a bathroom in the back of the room, the very last door on the right. You're welcome to use it at any point. We even have bathrooms outside the classroom. If you follow the signs, they'll take you around to the main bathroom at the temple. We even have some water here that the students provide, so you're welcome to help yourself to some water. We actually had a kids retreat over the last 2 days, and the kids brought snacks, and there was some leftovers, so there's some chocolate and some popcorn over there. You're even welcome to enjoy some little snacks from the children that left it here for you guys. So again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys. Welcome to our class today. This is called the Pali Canon and English Study Group, which I'm going to be helping you guys to understand what that is here in a moment. But before we get started with that, I thought I would just spend a little bit of time giving you some background on the teachings of the Buddha, because I know many of you guys, this is your first time here. The teachings of the Buddha, it's a path to enlightenment. It's a path to helping you train your mind to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind can be peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. You get to a point where the mind no longer experiences any anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, boredom, loneliness, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these discontent feelings in others are completely eliminated from the enlightened mind. You don't even have the slightest displeasure in the mind by the time you get to enlightenment. You're never even in a bad mood anymore. You'll notice that there's focus, concentration, clarity of mind, and deep memory. Your personal, professional relationships will really blossom because your mind has been purified. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions that are in the mind that are causing the mind to experience discontent feelings, like that anger, sadness, frustration, and others. So if you're experiencing those types of feelings, it just means that the mind is unenlightened and it doesn't yet have the wisdom of how to train itself in order to get to this enlightened mental state. So the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to help you learn how to actually progress towards this enlightened mental state and get rid of all those discontent feelings so you don't need to keep experiencing the pain, the frustration, the displeasure, the despair, and all of those feelings over and over and over again. And you don't do that through belief. The teachings of the Buddha, it's not about believing, and then hoping something happens good for you in the future. Instead, you're learning his teachings, you're reflecting on them to independently verify that they're true, and then you're practicing his teachings. Through practicing his teachings, you're transforming the mind and you're uprooting these pollutions out of the mind and getting to this enlightened mental state. So because you're learning now, you're reflecting now, and you're practicing now, you exceed the results now in this life, that the mind's becoming more peaceful and more joyful. So when I share with teachings with students, when they first start, I typically teach them not to believe anything that I say. Don't believe anything that you see in the books that I write, any of the videos or podcasts or any of the classes that I teach or anybody else. Don't believe anything, because belief isn't going to get you to wisdom. In order to get to enlightenment, you need to acquire wisdom and then be able to train the mind with that wisdom. Essentially, what you're doing is you're awakening to the wisdom of the natural laws of existence. When we talk about awakening, what we're talking about is gaining wisdom. And when you're awakening, you're learning, you're reflecting to independently verify, and you're practicing. And now with this wisdom, you'll make wiser decisions in the world that will then produce wholesome results for you. Because when you lack wisdom of these natural laws of existence, you'll tend to make unwise decisions that lead to unwholesome results. And this is what you experience throughout your life, is that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand, that there's these natural laws that are around that the Buddha discovered, and then he explains them to you. And then you can independently verify them through your own learning, reflection, and practice. One of the main natural laws that you're awakening to is called the natural law of Gama. In the Pali language, which the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language, we use the word Gama. You might have heard the word karma. This is the Sanskrit version of this word. The word karma or Gama, this is referring to the natural law, but this natural law, it's not punishments and rewards. It's not mystical and magical. There's no being that's overseeing this. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault or anything like this. What the natural law of Gama is teaching you is that there's a cause and there's an effect, or there's an action and there's a result. There's some decision that you make that you put out into the world. And then based on whether that's a wise decision or an unwise decision, you're going to experience either wholesome results or unwholesome results. And as long as you lack wisdom of this natural law, the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand. You're going to naturally make unwise decisions without even realizing it. And you're going to experience unwholesome results in your life. And oftentimes what the unenlightened mind does when you experience unwholesome results is you might blame other people for the things that you experience. This is what the unenlightened mind will typically do, is blame somebody else for what you're experiencing, where in reality you can see more and more closely that it's your decisions that are leading to any particular result that you're experiencing in life. And when you blame your feelings on other people, you might push those people away. You might become bitter and harsh and hostile with them, or you might put your expectations on them, trying to control them to do things your way. And none of this actually works because you keep getting irritated and angry and frustrated over and over and over again. So the actual problem is not external. It's not that when you push people away, that's going to fix the problem. Because if that was the problem, you wouldn't get irritated or frustrated anymore. Or if you became bitter and harsh and hostile with people, if that fixed the problem, you wouldn't get angry anymore. Or if putting your expectations on people worked, that would also fix the problem. But this isn't the actual problem. The problem is actually inside the mind that's causing these discontent feelings to arise. So the Buddha is teaching you this through his teachings and then inviting you and welcoming you to be able to learn it, to reflect on it, and to practice it. He doesn't use guilt, shame, or fear in order to motivate you to practice his teachings. He doesn't try to pressure you or force you into anything. He didn't create any rules or commandments. Instead, he's sharing with you what it took for him to be able to get to that enlightened mental state where his mind's peaceful and joyful. And then each individual person just decides, is that something that they would like to accomplish? And if you'd like to accomplish eliminating anger and sadness and all these other discontent feelings, the teachings of the Buddha are here for you to be able to help you understand how to do that. And we offer them at no cost because we're 100% confident that these teachings lead to an improved condition of mind, and with loving kindness and compassion to be able to help other individuals experience that enlightened mental state, people offer these teachings at no cost so that there's no barriers in your way to be able to access these teachings. So whether it's books or videos or podcasts or classes or courses, retreats, all of this is available for you at no cost. The books here, we ask that you just reimburse us for the printing cost, but you can actually download them for free. You can take them and go print them if you like, or you can get printed versions here at the temple or on Amazon. This will help you to be able to learn and practice the teachings. So these natural laws that you're awakening to, you did the same thing with the natural law of gravity, that at one time you didn't understand the natural law of gravity. So you struggled as you were 1 year old, 2 years old, 3 years old. You made unwise decisions that led to unwholesome results. You fell down, you hit your head, you hit your knees, you busted open your elbows or what have you. You fell down. Slowly but surely, you gained wisdom of this natural law of gravity, and you started making wiser decisions that produced more wholesome results for you. Now you tie your shoes, you look at the surface where you walk, you've learned to ride a bicycle, climb a ladder, get on airplanes, all these decisions that you're making because now you fully awoke to the natural law of gravity. And now you no longer struggle with that natural law. But the mind is still struggling with all these other natural laws, like the natural law of Dhamma, and that's what the teachings of the Buddha are here to do, is to point out to you and help you to be able to learn these natural laws. A Buddha can get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides, but other individuals would need actual help. They would need guidance. The individual is doing the actual work. Each individual practitioner, it's your own independent journey to enlightenment, but a teacher is here to guide you along the way and help you with resources and classes and kind of point the way towards enlightenment. And then each individual person is choosing to do the work in order to get to enlightenment. A Buddha is very rare in the world. The last one that the world's currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. So everyone else in the world is going to need teachers and need guides to be able to help them to be able to get to this enlightened mental state. So this is a little bit of the background to help you kind of orient to understanding the teachings of the Buddha a bit. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to transition over to sharing what we call the Pali Canon and English study group. Each Saturday we get together and we study the original teachings of the Buddha in his words. It's called the Pali Canon and English study group because the original teachings of the Buddha are called the Pali Canon. There's 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. That's about maybe 5 inches, maybe 10 centimeters thick. And these 45 volumes of books are what they captured the original teachings of the Buddha in. We've consolidated that into a 13-book series that I share so that way students can actually digest it over a period of time. And oftentimes when students are coming to the Pali Canon and English study group, they've already studied foundational teachings and other programs, because we have what's called the group learning program, which meets on Sundays and Wednesdays. This is a really good foundational program for someone to get started. And we have courses and retreats. This Monday, I'm going to be starting a Foundation in the Path to Enlightenment course, which is Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. Students are welcome and invited to attend that if you'd like. And this is where you can build a really strong foundation. And then a program like this, the Pali Canon and English Study Group, you actually get a lot more benefit out of it. So what I'm going to be sharing with you today is actually volume 11 of this book series. And for those of you guys that haven't studied foundational teachings, this may be something that's kind of beyond your understanding at this point, but I'm going to apply effort to helping you to understand it, even if you've never studied the teachings of the Buddha at all. This particular volume 11, it's volume 11 for a reason, because it's the content in this volume, it's called the realms of existence. This is where you're learning about the cycle of rebirth. Remember, everything in the teachings of the Buddha, you're not to believe anything, including the cycle of rebirth. You can independently verify that beings are being reborn over and over and over and over again. You're not necessarily going to be able to do that right now today, but over the course of your journey on the path to enlightenment, you can get to the point where you can independently verify that this cycle of rebirth is 100% true. The Buddha taught the cycle of rebirth for a reason, because as you awaken more and more to enlightenment and you're lifting out more and more of the pollution out of your mind, you may actually come in contact with beings in these various realms that he taught. He taught 5 different realms, which you're going to see today. He taught the hell realm, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. The ultimate goal is to get to enlightenment. And when you get to enlightenment, you will escape the cycle of rebirth and no longer be born throughout this cycle of rebirth over and over and over again. But these beings in all these different realms, just like you have contact with other humans, you have contact with animals, you can actually experience contact from beings in the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, and the heavenly realm. And if you didn't understand these realms of existence and you started experiencing contact from these realms, or if you've already in your life at some point have had contact with these beings, you might think you're going crazy or going insane. So one of the reasons why he taught the cycle of rebirth is to help you understand what is actually truly occurring in the world as you start experiencing contact with these various realms. Another reason why he taught this is that oftentimes as an individual is learning and practicing these teachings and they're lifting more and more pollution out of their mind, that you might come to a point where you start observing your past lives. You may have already had certain experiences like deja vu and others, where you started having residual memories of past lives bubbling up onto the surface of the mind. And if you're experiencing that and you're noticing that you've had all these memories from past lives. Maybe you have memories of being murdered in the past or something like that, and you know it didn't happen in this life, of course. And this could really shake you up if you didn't understand the cycle of rebirth and that you have been many different beings in the past. So the Buddha is teaching you the cycle of rebirth because it's the truth, but also it helps you as you start having contact with various beings in various realms, as you start potentially experiencing the observation of past lives and things like this. So what we do in this Pali Canon and English study group is I share the words of the Buddha through this book series, and we study 10 chapters each day. Students will oftentimes be reading before class and or after class. And then when we come to the class, student will volunteer to read a chapter. And these chapters are fairly short. This one you can see is not even a page long. And Marcy online, oh, she's gone. She must have went to sleep. It's kind of late for her. She actually volunteered to read the first chapter. But I'll open up to volunteers here at the temple. If you would like to read this particular chapter, you can read it out loud, and then we'll all hear that. And then I'm going to share about 5 minutes worth of teachings on each individual chapter. And then I'm going to open up to any and all questions that you guys have. So as I mentioned, this is content that students oftentimes move into after about 1.5 years or so of learning with me. But even if this is your first time learning with me, you'll surely gain some benefit out of our time studying today. But just know that this isn't like the traditional style of learning. Normally, the way that you would learn if you're in a foundation foundational program, which tomorrow is a foundational program, all next week is a foundational program. I will teach and teach and teach for about 20, 30 minutes. Then I'll open up the questions that students have. Then I'll teach some more for about 20 or 30 minutes, open up the questions that you guys have. And it's more of kind of me guiding you along. Where this program is more about students independently studying the individual chapters and then coming to class to actually be able to understand what it is that they're studying. So our group learning program and our other courses is kind of like a bachelor's or master's degree in Buddhist studies, where this program is more like a PhD program, where a PhD program, you tend to be doing a lot of research on your own, a lot of studying on your own, and then coming to class in order to get help from your advisor or your teacher or something of that nature. So is there anyone here that would like to volunteer to read this first chapter? Would you like to read, sir? Okay. If you would like to read, if you could use the microphones in this white bowl here, that way the people online will be able to hear you. There's a gray switch on the front. If you just turn that on, give it about a second and then it'll activate. And then for those of you guys that would like to read, you can use the microphones here. And then as you would like to ask questions, same thing, if you wouldn't mind using a microphone, that way the people online will be able to hear you. So thank you, sir. I appreciate you volunteering. Is your mic on? I'm not sure if it's actually... There should be a light on the front. There you go. Yeah, it's on now.
Okay.
Yeah.
4 kinds of generation. Sariputta, there are these 4 kinds of generation. What are the 4? Egg-born generation, womb-born generation, moisture-born generation, and spontaneous generation. What is egg-born generation? These are these beings born by breaking out of the shell of an egg. This is called egg-born generation. What is womb-born generation? These are beings born by breaking out of the kal, the amniotic membrane enclosing a fetus. This is called womb-born generation. What is moisture-born generation? These are these beings born in a rotten fish, in a rotten corpse, in rotten porridge, in a cesspit, or in a sewer. This is called moisture-born generation. What is spontaneous generation? These are gods and inhabitants of hell, and certain human beings, and some beings in lower worlds. This is called spontaneous generation. These are the 4 kinds of generation.
Okay.
Reference MM 12.
Oh, thank you, sir. So this reference here, this goes back to the original source teachings of the Buddha, because what we've done in this book series is we've grabbed certain excerpts, because these discourses are very long, and we've put them into manageable, digestible chunks. So if somebody was curious of what the Buddha was talking about before this or after this, they can use this reference to go back and actually see that. So here what we've got is we've got a segmented discourse that is now helping you to learn and understand one particular aspect of the teachings of the Buddha. And remember, you're not believing any of this stuff. You're learning, you're reflecting, and you're practicing. And what the Buddha is doing is he's teaching you true reality. He's teaching you what's truly happening in the world so that you can understand the world around you, because it's a real struggle to exist in a world that you don't understand. How many times have you maybe said, I don't understand mom, why is she doing this? Or I don't understand dad, or I don't understand something on the news. news. You might have been watching the news and you're like, I don't understand why people keep doing this. If you don't understand things that are going on in the world, then it's a real struggle to exist in this world. So the Buddha is gradually, slowly, but surely helping an individual understand the world around you. And as I mentioned, this isn't typically where a student would start. It's volume 11 of the book series, but I will help you to understand what the Buddha is sharing here. And then if you would like to then join a foundational program or any of our courses or retreats, that would be ideal to help you kind of build up your practice of understanding the teachings from the beginning. So here he's talking about how beings come into the world, and he's talking about egg-born, womb-born, moisture-born, and spontaneous generation. And this is helpful because during the lifetime of the Buddha, people weren't studying in the same way that we study nowadays. Like we typically go through 12 grades of schooling. Some people go to college and university. We study sciences and biology and lots of different things that we study growing up as an individual in the world. During the lifetime of the Buddha, 2,500 years ago, they didn't have the educational systems that we have nowadays. We've invented educational systems, food systems, water systems, electric systems, all kinds of things that we do now differently than 2,500 years ago. So there were people who were leaving home to go live with the Buddha, oftentimes very young, sometimes 5, 6, 7 years old. They would come in, they would start living with the Buddha, and he was teaching them about the entire world and how beings come into the world is one of those things that he would have been teaching. So these are the 4 ways that he's describing that beings come into the world. And you can independently verify this, that beings do come into the world through being born through an egg, right? We have chickens, we have birds, things like this that we know that experience that. Even some fish and things like that are born in this way. Then we have womb-born generation. This is like us. We were born from the womb of a woman, right? And so are some other animals as well. And then we know that there's moisture-born generation, and the Buddha's giving you examples of what that is so that you can then independently verify what he's sharing. And then there's the spontaneous generation, which you may or may not be able to actually verify depending on what your experience has been in the world. But here he's explaining to you how beings come into the world. Because what you're going to start getting in this book is you're going to start seeing him describe each individual realm. And now at the beginning of this book, he's helping you to set up and understand how all beings come into the world before he starts talking about each individual realm one at a time. Do you guys have any questions on this particular chapter? Which one? Oh, okay. So here, this is a reference to one of the volumes of the Pali Canon, the original Pali Canon. They have actual long names to them. I don't have them memorized what the long names are, but if you were interested in finding this discourse, you could put MN12 into Google and it will come back and it'll show you the teachings of the Buddha. Sometimes there's like a factory somewhere, maybe in Germany or in America or something, that has a part number that's MN12. So sometimes you need to put MN12 Buddhism for it to come back. But that's referencing one of the volumes of the Pali Canon. Mm-hmm. Okay. Yes, ma'am. Would you mind using the mic right there? That way everybody can hear you online as well. We've got some students who are joining us online.
Sorry. My question is the spontaneous generation. So that exists in the world or something else?
Yeah, this is what the Buddha is explaining, what occurs in the world, that there's beings that spontaneously generate in the world. And he's giving examples of gods, inhabitants of hell, and certain human beings and some beings in the lower worlds. When he's talking about the lower worlds here, he's describing the 3 lower realms: hell, the animal realm, and the afflicted spirit realm. These are what's called the lower realms of existence, or the lower worlds. Mm-hmm. And then human and heavenly realm are considered to be the human realm is kind of like the middle realm, and then the heavenly realm is like an upper realm. But the goal is to escape all of these realms. Sometimes people think the goal is to exist in heaven, and that's a permanent existence, but heaven is not permanent. Nothing around you is permanent. But oftentimes people are taught that an existence in heaven is permanent, but you can look around the world and you can see nothing around you is permanent. So the goal is to escape all of these realms, and the Buddha is describing how beings are generated, how they come into existence through birth. Now, it's the dependent origination, which is another teaching that the Buddha shares that goes through the step-by-step process of how beings come into the world. But here he's just kind of saying, how do beings get generated into the world?
Interesting. So other three ones, so that makes sense for me. But that last one is, I tried to imagine, but I couldn't.
Yeah, that's why I mentioned, like, some people haven't had experience with beings coming into the world spontaneously. So you may not have had this experience yet to be able to independently verify this particular aspect of the teaching that he's sharing. And that's okay. Some of the teachings in the cycle of rebirth, while the Buddha goes into excruciating detail explaining the cycle of rebirth, some of them you don't have to understand in order to actually get to enlightenment. There's these core central teachings of things like the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the five precepts, meditation training, things like this that are really going to help you to awaken the mind, understanding the natural law of karma and so forth. These here with the cycle of rebirth, while it's very helpful to understand the cycle of rebirth, particularly if you start having contact with beings in other realms, or you start having observation of your past lives, it's very helpful to be able to have this background, but it's not required in order to get to enlightenment. You can actually get to enlightenment without fully understanding the cycle of rebirth.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. So let's move to the next chapter, which is chapter 12. Is there someone who would like to read this? Yeah, go ahead, Rasmus. You guys can pass those mics around and kind of keep them with you if you like.
Nine abodes of beings. Monks, there are these 9 abodes of beings. What 9? There are monks, beings that are different in body and different in perception, such as humans, some heavenly beings, and some in the lower world. This is the first abode of beings. There are beings that are different in body but identical in perception, such as the heavenly beings of Brahmas, gods, company that are reborn through the first jhana. This is the second abode of beings. There are beings of identical in body but different in perception. No, wait. Yeah, such as the heavenly beings of streaming radiance. This is the third abode of beings. There are beings that are identical in body and identical in perception, such as the heavenly beings of refulgent glory. I have no idea what that means. This is the fourth abode of beings. There are beings that are non-percipient without experience, such as the heavenly beings that are non-percipient. This is the fifth abode of beings. There are beings that, with the complete surmounting of perceptions of forms, with the passing away of perceptions of sensory impingement, with non-attention to perceptions of diversity, perceiving space is infinite, belong to the base of the infinity of space. This is the sixth abode of beings. There are beings that, by completely surmounting the base of the infinity of space, perceiving consciousness is infinite, belong to the base of the infinite of consciousness. This is the seventh abode of beings. There are beings that, by completely surmounting the base of the infinity of consciousness, perceiving there is nothing, belong to the base of nothingness. This is the eighth abode of beings. There are beings that, by completely surmounting the base of nothingness, belong to the base of neither perception nor non-perception. This is the ninth abode of beings. These are the nine abode of beings.
Okay, thank you, Rasmus. So here the Buddha is describing these 9 dwellings. That's what an abode is. It's a dwelling. And he's describing some of the characteristics of beings in these various categories. And here, this is one of those teachings also that isn't really necessarily needed in order for you to get to enlightenment. Getting to enlightenment is to train the mind to eliminate discontent feelings, the sadness, the anger, frustration, irritation, and so forth and so on. This type of teaching, while it's helpful, it's informative, the Buddha is explaining the world around you, it's not something that you would absolutely have to know in order to get to enlightenment. During the lifetime of the Buddha, they had a different cosmology than we have now. What a cosmology is how they view the world. So for us, if people understand hell or heaven, for example, we tend to think of it as just hell or heaven, right? As like kind of 2 different places. And we think about it as just kind of one particular realm. Well, the Buddha, when he describes like the hell realm and the heavenly realm, he actually categorizes it, and he describes the individual types of beings in these realms and the segments of these realms. So he goes into an excruciating amount of detail explaining all these different realms and the beings in these different realms. He's the fully, perfectly enlightened one who deeply understands these realms inside and out because he experienced these realms and he had memories of these realms. That's why he was able to explain them. So this is a teaching that is in here because it's part of the teachings of the Buddha, but it's not something that you absolutely need to understand. And here, underneath of the words of the Buddha and then the reference, you see words from me that are helping you to understand this kind of thing. And I explain to you more about this here. And this is something that students have the ability to study as they're learning in these books. And you can learn the various things that I'm sharing here that are going to help you reflect on these various teachings and whether or not this is a teaching that you would need in order to get to enlightenment or not. And I can share with you that while this is very interesting, it helps us to understand what they were talking about and what they were thinking about at that time. It's not something that you need to know inside and out in order to be able to train your mind to eliminate sadness and anger and frustration in others. So is there anything you guys have questions on related to this particular teaching? No? Okay. So I'm going to move to the next one, which is chapter 13. Now this one will provide a bit more detail. Is there someone who would like to read this particular chapter? Sure. Go ahead, Christopher.
Five destinations and similes of destination. Sariputta, there are these 5 destinations. What are the 5? Hell, the animal realm, the realm of afflicted spirits, human realm, and heavenly realm. I understand hell and the path and way leading to hell, and I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a state of deprivation, in an unhappy destination, in perdition, in hell. I understand the animal realm and the path and way leading to the animal realm. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in the animal realm. I understand the realm of afflicted spirits and the path and way leading to the realm of afflicted spirits. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in the realm of afflicted spirits. I understand the human realm and the path and way leading to the human realm. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear among human beings. I understand the heavenly realm and the path and way leading to the heavenly realm. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, on the dissolution of the body after death, reappear in a happy destination in the heavenly realm. I understand Nibbana, enlightenment, and the path and way leading to Nibbana, enlightenment. And I also understand how one who has entered this path will, by realizing for himself with direct knowledge, experience, here and now, enter upon and reside in the liberation of mind and liberation by wisdom that are taintless with the destruction of the taints. A simile for seeing destinations.
Let me do something, Christopher.
Yeah, that's long, huh?
Yeah, this goes on pretty long. Let me first explain this first part, and then if we'd like to read that second part, we can do that. So here, the Buddha is describing the 5 realms, at least to a certain degree. He's at least introducing them. The hell, animal, afflicted spirit, human realm, and heavenly realm. And if you look at the totality of his teachings and or you have experience in these various realms, you can understand these realms in detail. None of these realms are permanent. Beings are being reborn in and out of these realms all the time. And there's various qualities that one has experienced with an existence in one of these realms. So let's start with the heavenly realm. The heavenly realm is a realm that beings are only experiencing pleasant feelings. They don't experience painful feelings, and they don't experience neither painful nor pleasant. They're only experiencing pleasant feelings, and they tend to be complacent in terms of applying effort and energy to learn and practice to be able to get to enlightenment. They're still in the cycle of rebirth, and they need to get to enlightenment to escape that. It's not a permanent destination, and the goal of the teachings of the Buddha isn't to get to the heavenly realm. So if a being is in the heavenly realm, they have a very long lifespan, way longer than human beings. They can have lifespans of upwards of 500 years. And they tend to be very complacent, not learning and practicing the teachings. It's not an ideal existence. Although they have the ability to get to enlightenment, they oftentimes are too complacent to learn and practice and be able to get to enlightenment. And this is what we call a formless realm. They don't have physical form in this realm. Then there's the human realm. You guys are very familiar with this realm. In this realm, we experience pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant feelings. We experience all 3 types of discontentedness. And we tend to have built-in motivation to get to enlightenment because human beings don't like those painful feelings. The anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety. That can oftentimes be a motivator to be able to get to enlightenment. So while human beings can be complacent, they tend to have a bit more built-in motivation beyond the heavenly realm. In the human realm, we can also cultivate our mind in getting to enlightenment, and we have the ability to do that in this life. This also is not a permanent existence, and we can escape these discontent feelings by applying effort and energy to getting to enlightenment in this particular life. And this is a form realm where we have physical form. Then there's what's called the afflicted spirits realm. Some people refer to this as hungry ghost or ghost. You might have heard this. These beings, they aren't able to actually get to enlightenment from that existence. They can be reborn into other realms like the human realm and heavenly realm and ultimately get to enlightenment from there. But from that existence in the afflicted spirit realm, they can't actually cultivate their mind enough to be able to get to enlightenment. They're experiencing painful feelings and neither painful nor pleasant feelings in that realm. They don't have the ability to fully cultivate their mind to get to enlightenment, and they can be reborn in and out of that realm at different times. It's a formless realm. The animal realm, this is a form realm. They have physical form. This is like dogs, cats, spiders, snakes, cows, horses, birds, hawks, things like this. An animal can't actually cultivate their mind enough to get to enlightenment. There's some cultivation of their mind that they can do, but they don't have the full ability to actually get to enlightenment from that realm. They will ultimately need to be reborn into either a human or heavenly existence in order to get to enlightenment and escape the cycle of rebirth. These beings experience all 3 feelings. They experience the pleasant feelings, painful feelings, and neither painful nor pleasant. Then there's the hell realm. These are formless beings. They experience exclusively painful feelings, and they have no ability to cultivate their mind to actually learn and practice the teachings of the Buddha and actually get to enlightenment from that realm. So all the lower realms, These are like prisons. The Buddha describes the hell realm and the animal realm like a prison, that once you're in these realms, it's very challenging to get out of them. But we've all done that. We've gotten to this human existence, which is an ideal existence. But once one is reborn into these lower realms, it's very challenging to get back out of it. It takes many countless rebirths. So for example, in the animal realm, a lot of times animals have to do a lot of killing in order just to sustain their life. And these natural laws of existence are affecting you whether you're aware of them or not. So like a tiger, for example, it does a lot of killing, or a lion or a snake. And that's why its lifetime is very short, has a very shortened lifespan, because it does so much killing, but it has to do that in order to survive. So this is why it's almost like trapped in that existence, and then it will be reborn in other animal existences. In the animal realm, not only are they killing, but they're also doing stealing. They're stealing food and different things. They're also having a certain amount of sexual misconduct where they're having sex with lots of different animals. And this is one of the reasons why this realm of the animal realm, it's like a prison, but also the hell realm is the same way. When we talk about these realms, oftentimes people think of them as being very far apart. Like sometimes people envision heaven being like really far in the sky and hell being deep down in the core of the earth or something like that. But in reality, these realms, these beings are all within the same time and space. So just like there's a human being sitting in this chair now, if I got up and left, there could be an animal, like a dog could come here and sit, or a bird or a spider or something like that. It's the same thing with the beings in the hell realm, afflicted spirit, and heavenly realm. Even though they're formless beings, they're on the same time and plane as us. They're in the same time and space as us. So there could very easily be beings from the heavenly realm right here in this temple, and you just may not be able to see them. There can be beings from the afflicted spirit realm or from the hell realm right here amongst us, but they're formless beings, so you may or may not be able to see them. Some human beings can see formless beings, but they don't have any physical form. So while some people envision these things as being really far apart, and we talk about them as realms, so it kind of gives the impression that they're really far away from each other, you should think about these as being on the same time and space, the same plane. We're all in the same time and space. That even though you're a human being, you see another human being, you see an animal, perhaps a spider or a mosquito. These are all animals. There's these other beings that are in the formless realms right here in the same time and space as us. And depending on what realm you're born into, you have certain feelings, you have certain ability to cultivate your mind or not cultivate the mind. The ideal existence would be the human existence, because we have built-in motivation to be able to get to enlightenment, and we have the ability to cultivate our mind to be able to get to enlightenment. Do you guys have any questions on any of these 5 realms? Yes, sir. If you could use one of the mics.
I'm wondering if these different types of realms and beings can affect each other in a way, in a sort of motivational and
These beings can influence you and influence others, but it's ultimately your decisions that comes down to what you choose to do and what you experience. So heavenly beings can attempt to influence you in positive ways, but it's ultimately your decision of what you choose to do. Just like hell beings and afflicted spirit beings, they can influence you as well, but it's ultimately your decisions. Just like a human being could influence you as well, but it's ultimately your decisions, your life, your decisions, and your results. That's your karma and what you experience.
I'm thinking about being like possessed and stuff like that. You can be possessed by hell being in a way.
Yeah, they can do those kinds of things, but it's your mind that's allowed that window of opportunity for them to be able to come in and actually possess you. If you're practicing these good, wholesome teachings and you've trained your mind and purified it to a certain degree, those beings can't do those kinds of things. But if your mind is open to darkness and all these kinds of things, those beings can do those kinds of things because your mind has made the choice to go into the darkness, and now those beings have the ability to come in and do like what you're describing, like possessions and things like that.
All right, thanks.
Yep. Okay, for those of you guys that are online, you guys are also welcome to ask questions as well. You can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. Okay, so let's see what this next part of the chapter is. Let's see if this is something. I think we don't need to read this. You guys can read this surely on your own time. It's in the book series, but I think that this isn't going to lend itself to any kind of further learning that is going to be helpful for you guys at this time. So I think I'll just skip over that. Okay. All right. So now this next chapter is about the hell realm. Now we're going to go into a series of chapters that are all about the hell realm in this book. And then there's going to be a series of chapters on the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. And here today, we're only studying up to chapter 20, so it's all going to be about the hell realm. So is there someone who would like to read this chapter? Yeah, go ahead. One of the things to help you guys to get to enlightenment is an enlightened being isn't going to have shyness. Sometimes in an environment like this, people are shy. This is because of one of the pollutions in the mind. It's called personal existence view, where the mind wants to be perceived in the world a certain way. And if your mind's not perceived that way, then you have these discontent feelings. So one of the ways to train your mind to eliminate shyness is to put it into the situation that it doesn't want to be in. So by volunteering to read, not that you're shy, but if you were shy and you actually volunteer to do that kind of thing, it actually puts your mind in a situation and then it trains it to be peaceful and joyful in that situation. So go ahead, Rosamos. If anybody would like to volunteer, you can volunteer to read, and this will help you to let go of your shyness. This is one of the teachings of how to train your mind to get closer to enlightenment.
All right. 10 courses of unwholesome karma deposited in hell. Impurity by body, kunda, is threefold. Impurity by speech is fourfold. Impurity by mind is threefold. And how kunda is impurity by body threefold? 1. Here someone destroys life. He is murderous, bloody-handed, given to blows and violence, merciless to living beings. 2. He takes what is not given. He steals the wealth and property of others in the village or forest. 3. He engages in sexual misconduct. He has sexual relations with women who are protected by their mother and father, brother, sister, or relatives, who are protected by their teachings, who have a husband whose violation entails a penalty, or even with one already engaged. It is in this way the impurity by body is threefold. And how kunda is impurity by speech fourfold? 1. Here someone speaks falsehood. If he is summoned to a council, to an assembly, to his relatives' presence, to his club, or to the court, and questioned as witness, thus, so, good man, tell what you know. Then not knowing he says, I know, or knowing he says, I do not know. Not seeing he says, I see, or seeing he says, I do not see. Thus he knowingly speaks falsehood for his own benefit, or for another's benefit, or for some insignificant worldly benefit. 2. He speaks argumentatively. Having heard something here, he repeats it elsewhere in order to divide those people from these. Or having heard something elsewhere, he repeats it to these people in order to divide them from those. Thus he is one who divides those who are united, a creator of divisions, one who enjoys separation, rejoices in separation, finds pleasure in separation, a speaker of words that create separation. 3. He speaks harshly. He speaks such words as are rough, hard, hurtful to others, offensive to others, bordering on anger, unconducive to concentration. Number 4, he indulges in idle chatter. He speaks at an improper time, speaks falsely, speaks what is unbeneficial, speaks opposite to the teachings and the discipline. At an improper time, he speaks such words as are unwise, unreasonable, rambling, and unbeneficial. It is in this way that impurity by speech is fourfold. And how Kunda is impurity by mind threefold. Here, someone is full of longing, craving. He longs, craves for the wealth and property of others. Thus, oh, may what belongs to another be mine. 2. He has a mind of ill will and intentions of hate. Thus, may these beings be slain, slaughtered, cut off, destroyed, or obliterated. 3. He holds wrong view, ignorance, and unknowing of true reality, and has an incorrect perspective. Thus, there is nothing given, nothing sacrificed, nothing offered. There is no fruit or result of wholesome and unwholesome actions. There is no this world, no other world. There is no mother, no father. There are no beings spontaneously reborn. There are in the world no ascetics and Brahmins of right conduct and right practice, who, having realized this world and other world of themselves by direct knowledge, experience, make them known by others. It is in this way the impurity by mind is threefold. Thus, Kunda, are the 10 courses of unwholesome karma. It is because people engage in these 10 courses of unwholesome karma that hell, the animal realm, the realm of afflicted spirits, and other bad destinations are seen. Monks, one possessing these 10 qualities is deposited in hell as if brought there.
Okay, thank you, Rasmus. So here, this is the Buddha helping you to understand certain aspects of the natural law of Karma. He teaches in the Eightfold Path, and he teaches in the 5 precepts certain aspects of this cause and effect and wise decision making that leads to wholesome results. And here, he's going into more detail about these things and organizing it through body, speech, and mind, because this is what you're working to purify. He's helping you to be able to see certain unwholesome qualities so that then you can purge these out of your practice. So here, these ones that are bodily in nature, he teaches in the 5 precepts, the first 3 precepts are helping you to understand how to live compassionately for the welfare of all living beings and not destroying life. He's teaching you in the 2nd precept about how to not steal from people because this causes harm, and then this harm is going to come back to you through the various results of your decisions. Then he teaches you in the 3rd precept about sexual misconduct, and he teaches about how causing harm through your sexual misconduct, through having sex with people outside of a committed relationship, through having sex with minors, things like this, people that are already in other relationships, and any of these kinds of things that are being done of a bodily nature are producing unwholesome results. These aren't rules, they're not commandments. He's not trying to force you or tell you what to do. But if you did these things, if you killed or you stole or you had sexual misconduct, you're going to experience all kinds of unwholesome results in life. Because of the results of your decisions to choose to do those things, then you're going to experience the unwholesome results. So he's bringing this to your attention so you understand not only is it causing you harm in this life, but it causes rebirth into these lower realms as well. So it would be wise for your life now, in order to get to more peacefulness and joy, to purge those kinds of things, but also so that you don't have to keep experiencing rebirth into all these various realms of existence. And then he does the same thing with speech. He explains to you about false speech or argumentative speech, or harsh speech or idle chatter. What idle chatter is like frivolous speech, like you have a craving to talk, you just want to talk, there's really no purpose, there's no benefit. You might have done this in the past, or you might have known people that do this. It's just like yada 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 yada. It's almost like broadcasting, right? You're not really in a conversation. Like you might be broadcasting to somebody, or they might be broadcasting to you. That's what idle chatter is. There's no real purpose or benefit behind it. There's just a craving to talk and talk and talk and talk. So you would like to get to the point where you purge all these things, where you're actually speaking truthfully, where you're speaking gently, not argumentatively, that you're speaking not harshly, so that you're speaking, your tone, your tempo, and your word choice is very gentle. This is what's going to produce the best results in your life. And then you're speaking in a way that is beneficial or purposeful. That would be the way to transform this. And the Buddha provides teachings on this in the core central teachings of the Eightfold Path to be able to help you understand this. And I'm going to be teaching that next week in our course that I'm going to be sharing. Then there's these things in terms of the mind. In terms of the mind, there's 3 individual pollutions, or 3 defilements, or they're also referred to as the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. This is craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. Some people refer to it as greed, hatred, and delusion. And each one of these, they produce certain symptoms in the mind. And whenever you're functioning through craving, anger, and ignorance, you're making unwise decisions that's going to produce unwholesome results. So craving is like a longing, a yearning, certain selfish desires that the mind chases after. It chases after the objects of its affection, thinking that something external is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases after its own selfish desires. And as the mind does that, it's producing unwholesome results, because you're making unwise decisions that are only self-serving. Then there's certain ill will that can arise, because when you have craving, if you get what you want, you get pleasant feelings. But if you don't get what you want, you get painful feelings. And one of those painful feelings that arises is anger. And that's where the bitterness, the hostility, the aggression comes through. And now when you start functioning through your bitterness and your hostility, your anger, your hatred, your ill will, your frustration, your agitation, your irritation, your annoyance, as you're making decisions through that based on your body, speech, and mind, now you're making unwise decisions that's producing unwholesome results in your relationships. And then there's this ignorance, or this unknowing of true reality, confusion, misunderstanding. The whole reason why craving and anger continues to exist in the mind is because of this ignorance or unknowing of true reality. In the unenlightened state, we don't understand that the mind is causing its own discontent feelings. We'll tend to blame it on other people. We don't realize that it's actually craving and anger that is a real problem in the mind, and that is because of the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. So there's ways to actually transform these 3 poisons, or these 3 unwholesome roots, so that your mind starts to practice the 3 wholesome roots. The 3 wholesome roots are generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. These are the exact opposites of craving, anger, and ignorance. So here the Buddha is saying that these are the 3 unwholesome roots, and he describes this in other discourses as well. But here he's connecting it to the natural law of karma to a certain degree, where in other teachings he does that in a more direct way. But also he's connecting it here to helping you understand that this is what's causing rebirth into the lower realms, and specifically in hell. That those beings in the hell realm, they have extensive amounts of craving, they have extensive amounts of anger or hatred, and they have extensive amounts of ignorance. That's why they're in that particular realm. They need to live out the results of those decisions that they were making. So here, this is this impurity by mind. And here the Buddha is saying these are the 10 courses of unwholesome karma. These are 10 ways that you can produce unwholesome karma. And remember, karma is just the results of your decisions. That if you're making decisions in this way, it's going to produce unwholesome results. But then he also has a similar teaching to this, where he's teaching you the wholesome roots, or the wholesome ways to produce wholesome karma as well. Do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Yes, sir.
Yes. So, suppose that we do our best, but still have like craving for a good coffee, we still be reborn in hell.
It's not that if you just have one craving, you're going to be reborn in hell. It's not that you have any craving at all, you're going to be reborn in hell. It's this extensive craving that one would be reborn into the lower realm. So by the time you get to like the third stage of enlightenment, where you're almost enlightened, the fourth stage would be enlightened, you still have some residual cravings there, but you don't have the significant deep cravings. So it's not just like, okay, if I have a craving for coffee, I'm going to be reborn in hell. It's not that one for one type of thing. And the Buddha even talks, when he describes kama, he says it would be impossible for you to see the exact result of your kama. You're going to see here in a moment, he's going to share some teachings with you that helps you to understand in this one too about some things that lead to rebirth in these lower realms. But it's not just if you lied one time, you're going to be reborn in hell. That's not the way any of this works. It's based on the condition of your mind at the time of death. And if you've evolved, if you've cultivated your mind, and now at the time of death, if you have a certain aspects of mind at the time of death, that's when you're going to be reborn into these other realms. So there's not a being that's looking over the course of your life and now judging you based on what you've done over the course of your life, and now you're going to be reborn based on that being's judgment. That's not how any of this is working. It's based on the condition of the mind at the time of death. And now, based on the condition of the mind at the time of death, that's the cause that leads to an effect of whether you're actually being reborn or not.
All right, thanks.
Okay, you're welcome. Yes, you have a question?
I'm not really sure how to word it though. But in theory, with like the hell realm, I feel like that's a very low frequency, a very low like resonance. And so there's kind of no option to elevate the mind. And from my understanding, the chapter before this one, it said that you, like the humans will be rebirthed into the human realm and the hell realm will be rebirthed into the hell realm. So I feel like it would be really hard to kind of transcend, if you will, from the hell realm and the animal realm into the human realm, because they're at a lower frequency or they don't have the opportunity to, like, the state of mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so what's happening is beings are moving in and out of these realms. So you can move from hell into any of the other realms, including heavenly realm. It's very rare that a being moves from hell straight into the human realm or straight into the heavenly realm, but it does happen. The Buddha talks about this in his teachings. It's just very rare. So while beings in the hell realm, they don't have the ability to get to enlightenment from that realm, they do cultivate their mind to a certain degree. When I say cultivate their mind, what I mean by that is when they're in the hell realm, they're burning off a certain amount of their unwholesome karma that they've generated in these other realms. So now when they're in that hell realm, they're burning off that unwholesome karma. Then they have the opportunity to be reborn, like in the animal realm or the afflicted spirit realm. But ultimately, they also do sometimes move from hell straight into the animal realm. This is why, straight into the human realm. This is why you can see beings who are in this world, in the human world, that are very vicious, very hostile, very deep amount of anger and painful feelings, because these beings are oftentimes coming right out of the hell realm or maybe an animal realm or something like that. So, and then also, conversely, that human realm, those beings can be reborn into hell, animal, afflicted spirit, or even the heavenly realm as well. So they're moving in and out of these realms, and being born in these various realms is helping you in some respects to burn off your unwholesome karma so that you can ultimately get to a better existence in a human or heavenly realm to be able to get to enlightenment. Mm-hmm. All right. I'm not seeing any other questions either online or here. So let's move on to the next chapter, which is chapter 15. Is there someone who would like to read this chapter? Yeah, go for it.
Dangers to one of unwholesome morality. Householders, there are these 5 dangers to one of unwholesome morality, of failure in morality, moral conduct. What are they? In the first place, he suffers great loss of property through neglecting his affairs. In the second place, he gets an unwholesome reputation for immorality and misconduct. In the third place, whatever assembly he approaches, whether of Kityas, Brahmins, householders, or ascetics, he does so without confidence and is fearful. In the fourth place, he dies confused. In the fifth place, after death, at the breaking up of the body, he arises in an unwholesome state, a bad destination in suffering and hell. These are the 5 dangers to one of unwholesome morality.
Okay, thank you. So the Buddha here is describing this true reality of this cause and effect or action and result. He's not using guilt or shame or fear. He's not trying to motivate you to learn and practice his teachings. If this is the first time you've learned this type of teachings of the Buddha, you might be like, whoa, this is pretty heavy. Like he's talking about how you get reborn in hell and all these other things. But remember, there's a whole totality of teachings here, 45 volumes of books. And the vast majority of what he's teaching you is how to train your mind to get to enlightenment. And that's what he's teaching here too, is he's just explaining to you true reality of what's leading to this rebirth in hell, because obviously you're not interested in being reborn into hell. You might have been there in the past and now you're no longer there, and it would be unwise to be interested to go back there. But the same things that lead to being reborn in improved existences are the same things that lead to enlightenment itself. So here the Buddha is explaining this true reality that, okay, an individual who is of unwholesome morality or failure in morality, meaning that you have unwholesome moral conduct, then he's saying, okay, this is what happens is you suffer great loss of property through neglecting his affairs. So if you've ever experienced this, or you've been around people that have experienced this, you can independently verify this and see that it's true that, yeah, when you're unwise, if you're aggressive, hostile, bitter, harsh, there's a certain neglecting of one's own affairs, and an individual experiences a loss of property. And you can see that one experiences this unwholesome reputation for immorality and misconduct. And we could go on as the Buddha does here, and he's explaining to you what you experience as a result of a lack of wisdom about your moral conduct, of what would be wise and how to conduct yourself in the world. The Buddha is saying that you will experience these results in this life. And then ultimately what he gets to is he's saying, okay, you will also experience some impermanence with the display here. What you will also experience is not only these results in this life, but he's saying, okay, in the fifth place, with this immorality, that there's this rebirth in the hell realm as well. So he's helping you to see the true reality, and you can independently verify these. Even if you have no recollection of being reborn in hell, you can actually verify these others. And then the Buddha is explaining to you, like, okay, this is a fifth place, that because of the immorality, it produces this rebirth in hell. But he's not using this as a way to try to convince you to learn his teachings. He's just explaining to you true reality so that you can then make whatever decisions you think would be wise for your own life. And then what he does in other parts of his teachings is teaches you that wise moral conduct and a way to function in the world that would be wise. And as you do that, you see the improvement, that your relationships improve. Because as you make wiser and wiser decisions about how to interact in the world, you start seeing this more peace and more joy come into the mind, and in your life, your relationships really improve. So any questions here on this particular chapter? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions here. So let's move on to chapter 16. Let me see what time it is. So here what we've got is, I'm just going to kind of summarize these next 5 chapters, because this is some content that's quite challenging for an individual to really wrap their mind around, but I'm just going to summarize these for you guys. What the Buddha is talking about here is he's talking about this crooked destination and rebirth. And what he's describing is an individual who kind of creeps around in life and is kind of like hiding things in their life, that they're going to then experience this rebirth where you're kind of creeping around, right? So like, let's just say like, you live amongst roommates and you kind of are like really secretive in your actions and you're kind of creeping around and you're kind of like trying to hide certain things. Maybe when you go to work in your professional life, you try to look all cheerful and you try to appear all wholesome, but in the background in your private life, you're actually doing all these unwholesome things and you're kind of hiding it from people. The Buddha is describing here that, okay, if you experience that and you're doing these unwise things like being murderous, and things like this, and you're actually hiding these things, he says, okay, you're going to be reborn into these destinations like in the animal realm where you're a creeping being, like a snake, a scorpion, centipede, and these others, which are also creeping beings that creep around. So if you creep around in the human realm, then you're going to be reborn in these realms where you're creeping around as well. So that's what this one's about. He's explaining this natural law of karma. And let's see what this next one is. Leading to hell, to the animal realm, into the realm of afflicted spirits. So this is actually a helpful one. This is also connecting into the 5 precepts where he's talking about destroying life, repeatedly pursued, developed, and cultivated, leads to hell, the animal realm, and the realm of afflicted spirits. But if you're reborn in the human realm, having repeatedly killed, he says, at a minimum, destroying life leads to a shortened lifespan. So if you notice that somebody dies when they're very young in life, then this could be because from a previous life they were very murderous and they killed a lot in their previous life. And now in this life, their lifespan is shortened. And that's what the Buddha is explaining to you to be able to help you see this natural law of karma. And then the same thing here with someone who steals. He's saying, okay, this is what's going to lead to rebirth in these lower realms. But at a minimum, you experience a loss of wealth. So if you steal in this life, you might notice that people steal from you. This is the results of your decisions. And then he talks about this sexual misconduct. Again, it leads to rebirth in the lower realms, but it also leads to hostility and competition in this life, right? And then same thing, false speech. This leads to false accusations about you and people accusing you of things. Argumentative speech, he's saying it leads to being separated from one's friends. Harsh speech leads to hearing disagreeable things. Idle chatter leads to distrusting one's words. Drinking liquor, wine, taking substances that cause heedlessness leads to madness. If you have ever been involved in taking substances that cause heedlessness, continuously, repeatedly pursued, you can confirm it leads to madness, right? That's kind of what we experience as we're continuing to take those types of substances. So this is another chapter that you can study, you can learn, you can independently verify, and you can see that the Buddha is teaching you things here that are going to help you in this life and in future lives as well. Okay, so let's look at the next chapter, chapter 18. Here, the unwise person's unhappy destination. So here, he's actually talking about this analogy. He's talking about if you had a ring and you threw this ring out into the sea, and now there's this turtle, this blind turtle, that comes up and tries to put its head through this ring. And he's saying, of course, that would be very rare for this to occur. It's a very long period of time for this blind turtle to put its head through this neck of this ring. And then he's describing here various things that are very rare to occur. And he goes through some various moral conduct that he's teaching here as well. So let me go to the next one. Here, this is interesting. This is a place where he's describing a certain segment of the hell realm. He's calling it the hell of laughter. And he describes what that realm is like and how one would actually be reborn into that realm. And it's mainly through craving, anger, and ignorance, these 3 poisons, which are ultimately working to purify the mind on this path to enlightenment, and which will actually lead to enlightenment itself. And then this last one, this is another segment of hell. It's called the battle slain hell. Again, you don't need to know all these different segments in order to get to enlightenment. But here he's going through and explaining how one would experience that. So I thought I would just do this as a way to kind of move us through the the chapters that we're studying today. I realize that for some of you guys, this is beyond what perhaps you were maybe interested in learning today, but it's part of the teachings of the Buddha. It's something that you can learn, but I would encourage to focus you guys on the core central teachings of the three universal truths, the Four Noble Truths, the Eightfold Path, the five precepts, meditation training, and all these kinds of things, because that's what's going to actually produce the elimination of discontentedness in the mind. And if you're interested in learning those kinds of things, our various programs will be able to help you do that. Tomorrow in our group learning program, I'm going to be sharing chapter 16 of volume 1. That's the place to actually start, is in volume 1. This particular chapter is all about the ego. The chapter is titled Dissolving the Ego. Ego serves no purpose. So what I'm going to be doing is teaching you in a more traditional style tomorrow, where I'll be teaching you for 20, 30 minutes and then opening up the questions, teaching you for 20, 30 minutes, opening up for questions. I'm going to explain what the ego is, the certain challenges that you experience because of the ego, and then I'm going to teach you how to dissolve it and how to eliminate it. And then on Monday, I'm going to be starting a 5-day course where you'll be learning the foundational teachings of what it takes to actually get to enlightenment. So that's a great course for anybody who's just starting out. And then on Wednesday, I will be sharing the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots and doing meditation with you guys. That's part of our group learning program. So you guys are welcome to attend any of these classes, courses, and retreats. You can see the information on these on our website, buddhadailywisdom.com. We have some of that information on the bulletin board here at the temple. And you can also ask me questions and I'll help you understand these various programs. Now for the next several months, we're going to be in this book, volume 11, on Saturdays. And usually people are studying this after they've been learning for about 1.5 years, 2 years of the teachings of the Buddha, and have already got the foundational teachings well underway in their life. So do you guys have any residual questions that you guys would like to ask before I end class? No? Okay. So I'll just end by thanking all of you guys for coming. Thank you for deciding that you would like to learn the teachings of the Buddha. As you have questions, feel free to reach out. I'm here to help you and support you on your journey to enlightenment. We'll see you guys in a future class. Have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Sawadee krap. Sawadee krap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.